Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 626. My opponent kicked off with e4 and I chose to play d5, the old center counter defense. And here my opponent pushed on with e5, a very rare response. I think just because e takes d5 is pretty good for white, so it's just kind of a natural move and leads to good position. It takes black a few moves to round up that pawn, and white gets some development. And pushing on to e5 would kind of transpose into a kind of French defense where I don't know, it seems like black is pretty much equal in this French defense because in this case, the way it was played, at least, I get my bishop outside the pawn chain and then play e6, so it's kind of a dream position for players who play the French, although you have to be you have to be comfortable with that pawn structure. So anyway, let's take a look at this from the notation page here. I wanted to point this out because I played this game on lichess and then I downloaded the PGN afterwards to check it out, and it came with all these comments. So apparently lichess automatically annotates the games because I didn't do anything special to get this. Anyway, lichess's commentary here, it's pretty standard. It just says things like inaccuracy, mistake, or blunder, and then it tells you what the best move was, and it gives you one line. So not a whole lot of information, but a little bit to go on. It points out some key turning points in the game, so I thought I would show that to you. So what lichess thinks, whatever engine they were using, is that white had an advantage with e takes d5, whereas after pushing on with e5 here, it's just even. That's the 0-0. So black is just equal here. So I go with c5. He goes bishop b5. Check. I bring out the knight. And I think this is a bit of a mistake. This bishop isn't doing a whole lot here. And I can block that pen pretty quickly. And so he just trades it off. But this gives me the bishop pair, and these c-pawns are not a liability. In fact, they're an advantage in fighting for the center, as we'll see in the game. He goes c3 to prepare d4. I get my bishop outside the pawn chain, and he goes queen a4. And then this is second inaccuracy flagged by the lichess engine. So it goes from about even, say, to better for black with a move like this. I mean, it is threatening something. It's threatening this pawn here, but that pawn is easy enough to defend, and then is the queen really doing a whole lot over here. But he continues with d4. I mean, the queen is also defending this pawn from the side, but it was sitting back here. It was also defending the pawn. He could have just developed a piece normally, and he probably would have been fine. Anyway, I take the pawn. He takes back with the queen, which surprised me. Normally, you would try and keep pawns in the center. So anyway, I want to push the c-pawn forward, chase the queen again, but I have to prepare that, so I have to play e6 because my d-pawn is undefended. And he took this chance to trade off the queen, so takes. But this leaves me with that advantage. I mean, I had that advantage ever since he developed his queen, and I still have it. In this case, well, I have the bishop pair here, although I'm about to lose that, so I shouldn't lean on that too much as an explanation. I have more control of the center. I can push this pawn forward and control a lot of squares in the center. I have open file for this rook. I'm just better developed overall. I think that's the chief source of the advantage. So he starts to get a piece into the game, knight f3. I go h6. I wanted to provide a retreat square for my bishop. Maybe this was a bit slow because it turns out I don't have time to retreat the bishop there. This knight move attacks the bishop and attacks the pawn. So after some thought, I decided I need to defend this pawn or push it, and I didn't want him taking the bishop over here and damaging the pawn structure. So I took on b1, and then I checked this with my chess engine, and it agrees that's one of the better moves here. So I guess that's okay. Then I played c5 to defend the pawn, and he hops into b5, which is actually a good square for that knight. It's looking at d6. There's always this kind of annoying threat of the knight hopping in there. Although it doesn't, well, it does attack the f-pawn from there. I mean, one possibility is just to move the f-pawn out of the way and just let the knight come in there, not worry so much about it. But I wanted to try and control that square. I could have actually just grabbed a pawn here too. I think the chess engine prefers that move. King d7. He plays rook a1 back to defend his pawn, and now I push on with h5. My idea here is to develop this knight. If I bring the knight out this way, it blocks the view of the bishop on that d6 square and allows him to pop his knight in there. So I'm still playing to keep his knight out of d6. So I play to develop my knight this way. And so I need to push that pawn forward and support the knight with the rook. He just castled here. I continue with my plan, and he decides to trade it off. So we're going into an endgame where I'll have bishop versus knight, and this is pretty good for me. There's pawns on both sides of the board, and in a case like that, the bishop is usually better than the knight in an endgame. Let's see, he goes rook f to d1, so putting a little pressure on this pawn, pinning it against my king. I step aside and hit his knight. He defends the knight, and then I play g5. My idea was I'm going to go after this pawn next, try and undermine it, get rid of the knight d6 threat once and for all, and I want to stop him from playing f4. So that was the motivation there, and I don't think, I mean, often pushing these pawns forward creates some weaknesses, but now that we're in the endgame and my king is over on the other side of the board, I think this is just helping me by gaining some space over here as well. He pushes on with c4. And now here, this next move you could definitely question. I could just play with pawn to d4 there and just have a solid position, and I would maintain my advantages, but I would be stuck with this knight here for a long time. So I decided to take. I mean, it was a pawn sacrifice, but this entails some risks because I'm opening up my my king position here. So in fact, he actually equalizes using this later in the game. So although with best play I'm still winning after d takes c4, but definitely you could play this in a simpler fashion just by pushing that pawn forward and not take these chances and give your opponent some counterplay here. He popped into d6 immediately, finally getting his chance to go there, and now he gets to penetrate with his rook. So I drop my king back. And now here's an interesting set of moves where the chess engine gives inaccuracies to several moves in a row here. So he played rook a to d1 immediately, and the chess engine wants to play h4 first and then rook a to d1. So the key difference is that by playing h4 first, he's giving his king an escape square, so I don't have these back rank mate threats, which turn out to be pretty critical to the game. So rook a to d1, bit of a mistake. And now, you know, there is this, if he checks me here and I come forward and he brings the other rook in, I do get mated. But I can just grab this pawn and then there's no longer a mate threat. So I really should have just grabbed the pawn right here. And that's what the chess engine is giving as the best move for me. And then I should be staying in the driver's seat in this game at this point. He can try checking me. Here we're in this line suggested by the chess engine. I can come up here, and if he comes in, I can escape to the b5 square. He grabs a pawn, but I can come down here to rook a2, and now he needs to make some lift for his king so that this rook is free to move, and I get to grab the b pawn. So this is a decent position for black. Couple pawns up. No, one pawn up, I guess, after he takes here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But and rook back to h8. But I think my pawns are more dangerous than his pawns. Although he has a passed pawn here, so I do have to be careful. But these are connected passers. I should be able to work them up the board. Okay. But I was getting worried in this position about those mate threats. Like I said, there's the idea of coming here, and if my king comes forward, he mates me. So I dropped my rook back to h8. And after this, actually, the chess engine says that it's once again an even game. So he has drawing chances here, or he has a draw with good play. Not just chances. He can get a draw here. So he goes for the check. I think this is good so far. I can't go forward because I've left this pawn here, so I have to go back. Takes here, and now I take on a4. But my king is in a worse position compared to those other lines. And now h4 once again, giving the king some lift, is the way to play this. h4, g takes, and rook to d6, penetrating with the other rook. And this should lead to a position which is even. He's got enough counterplay with his rooks here. He's activated his rooks and he's attacking my pawns. And if we count the material, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, I'm 2 pawns up, but my pawns don't make such a good impression here. This B pawn is still alive, holding these guys back, and these H pawns aren't going anywhere. So anyway, that would have been best play. He played rook to b1, just defending the A pawn. And then my next move is a mistake. A typical kind of mistake for me, too. Let's see. Best move was rook d8. I played rook d8 the next move. And my idea was I wanted to set up rook d8 with a threat against the b pawn. The idea is that with a rook on b4 and a rook on d8, I'm threatening just to take that pawn, and he can't take back because of the back rank mate threat from this other rook. So I was trying to do it in a bit of a sneaky way by playing rook to b4 first. But what this allows is it allows him to play rook to a1, and that's pretty dangerous. Rook to a1 is threatening mate, because he's got me cut off on the second rank, forces my king here, and then he can penetrate with this rook to a7. So that's what's wrong with this rook b4 idea, and a typical kind of mistake that I make. I look at my ideas of what I'm trying to do here, and I'm ignoring my opponent's counterplay. But anyway, he didn't take advantage of that. I played rook b4, and he played rook to f6. And you can see the chess engine has gone from calling these moves. First, they were called inaccuracies. Now we're up to mistakes. And then finally, rook to f6 is an actual blunder. So it must be something to do with the swing in the position. He could still, he can draw with rook to a8, but rook to a1 rather. But rook to f6, I'm definitely winning. And now I play rook to d8. Now the chess engine, I will quibble with this one, I will contest this notation here. The lichess evaluation calls this a mistake, but if you look at it, I'm winning in both cases. Whether I play rook d8 or whether I play c3 first, I'm still winning. So I don't count that as a mistake if I'm still winning. I go here, and let's see. His best play here is to play rook to c1, try and grab the c pawn in exchange for the b pawn. So this is a blunder, I guess. I will agree with that. He played g3 to give his king some lift, and that allows me to push on with c3, taking advantage of the pin on this b pawn. And so he's had his trouble finding a move. Let's see, what's his best move here? This move was king g2, just getting off the back rank, and then I push on with c2. And I'm still going to be winning in that line as well. Anyway, he just continued on with rook takes e6. I continue on with c2. And then let's see, he threw in this check, but this doesn't help. And then he went rook to c1 to stop my pawn. But now I have this rook coming in with check. And then after the exchange, I get a queen. And then he resigned by logging out, I guess. But anyway, pretty straightforward win from this point. After the king moves, I'm going to gather his rook up, and there won't be any problem stopping this pawn. So straightforward win from that point. Anyway, interesting game. Hope you guys like this. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.